Hey there, Coach Pete here, and today I wanted to talk about how our identity and our performance interplay with each other, and especially when that comes to the topic of a career search. Never a fun time for anyone, and that can cause a lot of anxiety. I want to kind of deconstruct that whole process and show why, tell you a personal story of mine, and then show you a really strong hack that can flip the whole process to your advantage. Okay, so when we're talking about identity, it's very specifically, we're talking about you, who you are, your distinct talents, what you're born with, your skills, what you've acquired, especially transferable skills, the experiences that you've had so far in your life and how they've shaped you, your purpose, what you think your calling is, and how you want to change the world, the kind of impact you want to have on things. So when I say identity, it's not just your gender and your age. These are the very, very specific things that all go into making you up. When I talk about performance, identity is who you are. Performance is what you do, your productive work, how you contribute, and the impact that you think you can make in the world, the impact that you want to make. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my typical job search, which might be similar to the way you had done things. And that is, I put together my resume, trying to show my very best from what I've done on my previous jobs. Then I go looking at want ads or job boards online and see which companies have open positions. I look at those open positions, I compare them against what I think I can do, and I never feel like I measure up. In fact, I feel terrible. Oh my gosh, I'm not good enough for this, I'm not good enough for that. And my self-esteem just starts to go down so fast when I do that, and I just don't feel like I'm going to be a good fit. And the reason why is because when in that kind of mentality, you're positioning yourself to have performance dictate your identity. This is really powerful, so stick with me on this. Your performance dictating your identity. And a lot of people do this on jobs that they're currently employed on. How well you feel you do on your job makes you feel your self-esteem to rise and fall, because the man or the machine or the big system out there, the corporation, is saying this is the definition of what you should be like, what you should do. If you do that, you're good. You might get a raise. You won't be fired, hopefully, unless we downsize. And you can feel good about yourself. And by the way, we're probably going to want you to work even harder. Okay. And a healthy way to look at that is to have our identity dictate our performance. Meaning, when I have a good understanding of who I am, my talents, my transferable skills, how my experiences have shaped me, and the impact that I want to have on the world, when I put those things together, then I'm in a much better position to find a role where I can do those things and play those things out in performance. But it starts with who I am and what I'm good at. And then I go find a job where I can hopefully line up with a good percentage, hopefully maybe 80% of that, so that I can go do the work I want to do. Now, I want to tell you, you might think that's impractical or unrealistic, but it's not. In fact, it's very, very powerful. So I want to tell you my story. This was back in a number of years ago when I had just finished my first career phase. I had been 8 years in nonprofit fundraising and executive leadership in a nonprofit role. And I just knew my time was done and it was time to go to the next phase. I had a young family and was going to go into for-profit corporate industry. So I went through a very extensive inventory following a book that I highly recommend, which is What Color is Your Parachute? I've led a lot of my coaching clients through that book, and I just highly recommend some of the exercises, especially chapter 7. So check that out. But I went through and did a thorough inventory. I took my time and really did the hard work of figuring out, what am I good at? What are my transferable skills? And what change do I really want to make? And I wrote a resume, back in the day, we used to have an objective statement as the lead part of your resume. And I said to myself, if I'm going to really test this concept, test this concept of me putting really what I want to do first and then go and find a company. So I made a super specific objective statement. And I'll tell you what, I mean, for me, it was, I want to work in a high tech. I knew it had to be computer related. I knew it had to be a startup company. I knew I had to be in a promotional role, whether it be sales, marketing, or business development. And that company had to be, its ultimate vision had to be for a good cause. So I wrote that all very, very specifically. And I found this, my only interview, my first interview. And I went there and I said, okay, we're going to test this concept. I slid my resume over and, not trying to find what's the job description that I could fit into. Instead, this is who I am. Can I fit at this company? Now, press the pause button before I tell you what happens. This is a pretty different, it's a different way of thinking. It might appear radical to you. And, but I want you to stop thinking the whole resume job listing approach. It's depressing, it's demeaning, and it's going to grind the soul right out of you. And you're just going to feel like you don't fit. First of all, those job descriptions were written with only God being able to completely fulfill those. They're nuts. They're always perfect. And I've seen some new style ones like, oh, if you're going to fit in this culture, you're going to be blankety, blankety, blank. And it's like, guys, every new person that comes changes the culture a little bit. Yeah, I do want to know what your culture is like. But the way these things are written are so like exclusionary, because they're getting flooded with a ton of resumes and they're trying to weed people out. It's just not the right way to do it, unfortunately. So when you read those job descriptions and when you read those cultural statements of those companies, do not take them personally. Okay, you are not omnipotent and almighty, and no one's going to be able to fill those things completely. Okay, instead, like I said, do the work about finding out who you really are. Then go look for companies where you would like to work. Here's another dirty secret. Most companies don't even post their job openings immediately, and on their website, they're not kept up to date very well. Here's another secret. A hiring manager, who's the key person, the person who needs to hire someone to be on their team, if you lead with, this is who I am, this is the kind of change I can make, if they recognize that, if they see that in you, that confidence, they'll want you on the team and they'll find a spot for you. Job positions are like, this is ideally what happens, but most people that get hired, they never really settle completely in that role. They bring a nuances to it, and they might even wind up in a different kind of a role. But most companies actually want good people first, then they'll get you in the right slot. Okay? So these are all the things that are not apparent when you're looking at job openings and job descriptions. Okay? They want someone who's self-directed. They want someone who can show up and say, these are the things I can do. This is the change I can make. I would like to do it at your company. Do you see a good fit? What a difference. You're flipping it on its head. It's not the job description and performance leading who I am as my identity. You flip it. This is my identity. I would like to perform here. Is this a good fit? Now you're in control. This is not a depressing process. This is an empowering process. And if it's not a good fit, usually you'll come away thinking, you know what, I'm so glad I didn't go to work for that company, because it wouldn't have been a good fit. And it was, it would have sucked the life out of me. Who wants that, right? Okay. So trust me on this. It works. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Now I'll tell you my story. Finishing it up, when I slid that resume over to the two one hiring manager and another guy who was running operations for that company, they picked up the resume, read the objective statement only, put it back down and said, okay, when can you start? I kid you not. It was like funny. It was a joke to me. I mean, it's ironic. I got the job. They weren't teasing me. I got the job. But it was ironic because I tested this process and said, hey, let me try this. Let me lead with identity first and then find a spot. And it was perfect. It's exactly what they needed. I was with that company for 4 years, had a great run. It launched my career in cybersecurity, which lasted for 21 years. And and I learned a lot in the process. So I encourage you to do the same. Remember, find out who you are. I recommend what color is your parachute. Then go try to find a place where you can work. You might have heard this statement. You think you're God's gift to the world. Well, you really are God's gift to the world. Go find a place where your gift is a worthy place to play itself out. Okay, this is Coach Pete. I wish you all the best. You can do it. Bye-bye.